I've traded up again. I've got my client Denise in.
I'm a United fan, so with my son, I've come up a few times. Yeah.
They had 4 weeks out from your first photo shoot.
Yep.
The Big 50, doing it for the Big 50.
Yep. The important thing for me was clicking with someone and kind of them understanding me. I just thought, I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not going to tell you that I've done something when I haven't, because it's just not going to help me, right? I'm not knocking PTs, but you see a PT once a week or twice a week in a gym, but they're not going to help you with everything else because they don't have the time, right? But when you've got an online coach, I think that's what you want to do, and become healthier and more aware of how to lead that lifestyle and still have fun, and still have a social life, and still enjoy things. Then you know that I can't say anything against it.
In the morning, I'll have fish and a rice cake.
All right, welcome back to Fish and a Rice Cake. Back again without Jake for another episode. Instead, I've traded up again, and I've got my client Denise in. We're going to be chatting a little bit about your story, mate, and where you came from and where we're currently at. But first of all, dude, thank you for coming down and taking Jake's place. It's nice to have a prettier face sitting opposite instead of his usual mug.
Don't tell him that.
But yeah, mate, how are you doing? You okay?
Good, thanks for having me on firstly.
Pleasure, mate. Pleasure.
Really excited about this, been looking forward to it for weeks, but yeah, I'm good, all good.
Big drive up from 3-hour drive, you were saying, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I've come up a few times because I'm a United fan, so with my son, I've come up a few times. Yeah, I know, exactly. Yeah, I think he knows. But yeah, no, I've come up a few times and obviously know the journey quite well. It was fine. I left about 7 this morning and stopped off on the way, had a coffee, and yeah, all good.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be interesting to see if Jake listens back to this, because he'll definitely have something to say about that.
Yeah, a bit of banter, but no, it's fine.
We just obviously want to chat about where we're currently at. We're literally sitting now. What are we? About 4 weeks? 4 weeks out?
Yeah, I think I'm counting down the exact days, mate, to be honest.
Yeah, you will be back
Feels
now.
like that, yeah.
So we're 4 weeks out from your first photo shoot.
Yep.
The Big 50, doing it for the Big 50.
Yep.
And we just want to chat about obviously where we started, how we sort of got in touch. Obviously, we were just saying before where you started following me from. So we started through I think you reached out to me initially through Instagram. I started following you on Instagram, didn't you?
Yeah.
About this, I was looking back through it, and it was about this time last year. I think it was around April last year.
I think I started following you around that time, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, as I was saying to you just now, but I kind of started following Biceps and Banter when Jake was around, and Jimmy, I think it was.
Yes,
I can't
yeah,
remember.
You did, Jake and Jimmy, yeah.
And I mean, you know, I follow loads of people, you know, on fitness stuff on Instagram, as we all do, you know, sort of get jealous of all the physiques and stuff. And, yeah, just started following you, really like a lot of your content. I kind of felt I clicked with a lot of what you were saying. And I think you were bulking at the time?
I think I was I was at the very back end of my bulk.
Yeah.
And I think I'd done a few videos on YouTube just documenting the bulk and basically getting fatter, and how that was feeling, and sort of dealing with the mental side of that and letting yourself that happen. And I was just coming into, because I think I started my big sort of diet for everything last year. It was after I went to Barcelona with Sophie for her birthday at the start of May, and I started it literally the day I got back from there. So yeah, I think I was very much at the back end.
So I think that's why, I think that's probably quite a big reason. I had been kind of bulking from the previous summer. So when I started following you, I was like thinking, God, I know exactly how he feels. It's like, you know, you're sitting there thinking, God, I'm fat, and I feel like a bit like is this really what I want to do? Especially after having got lean. Well, we'll talk about it later, but having got lean in the past. So I kind of like, then I saw you go on your cut, and I'm thinking, right, okay, this is where I want to be, and I'm going to be, hopefully. And then just started following the content, and I think reached out to you in end of June.
Yeah, I think it was because you had a coach at that point, leading up to that. But this is what was really nice, and this is why when you did then reach out, and I remember I was chatting to Sophie about it, just as you generally do at the end of the day, about how work's been, and I was like, oh, Anis has reached out, and I was like, I already know he's going to be a really good client if he comes on, because we'd already been talking back and forth, just generally about training and dieting and stuff like that, and we'd sort of built up that bit of a rapport from that point. And I think when you can do that, and you don't just jump into working with a coach that you've literally just seen that day on Instagram, and you know how they work, and you sort of know the personality a bit, and you've got that connection of you've been doing the similar things, you can kind of get a feel straight away. And I was saying to Sophie, I was like, I think this is going to be actually a really good client. I'm quite excited about this. And I mean, it's turned out, it has turned out, you know, sitting
from both sides, Yeah.
So yeah, what was when you did first reach out? I think, was it because the coach that you had, they were changing, weren't they? If I remember rightly, they
were. They
essentially gave you a new coach or something.
Yeah, they didn't give me a new coach, but they were going in a new direction. So the company was, I think he was moving on or something along those lines. And I know it sounds a bad thing. I wouldn't say anything bad about previous coaches, but it just gave me a bit of an opportunity to say, right, I think I want to move on. And I mean, we could talk about this later, but I think the important thing for me was clicking with someone and kind of them understanding me. It's all well and good telling someone do X amount of steps and do this and do that, but unless you feel comfortable in having a kind of a bit of a friendly chat as well and knowing about the other guy's life, and that's me. I'm that kind of person. I like to talk to people, just the thing, kind of way I am. So that was the main thing. And I remember thinking, or when you was doing your Instagram stuff, just don't go after the first coach when you see him on Instagram just because he's got a great physique and has got great content. See if you actually feel that you would get on with them first. So that was a really, really big part, as well as the fact that things were changing structurally with the coach I was with. So I thought, yeah, reach out, and we had a first chat on the phone, and I thought, I made a decision really quickly. I said, yeah, this feels good. Yeah.
So when we first started, sort of where was your mindset at that time around training, around nutrition? How were you feeling with things? And
I think, it's weird. 2019 was around the time that I finally kind of sorted stuff out, where I felt like I think I knew what I needed to do. Prior to that, I didn't have a clue. I was like kind of all over the shop. I was just training for the hell of it. Didn't know much about diet, nutrition. It was just kind of all over the place. But from 2019, I kind of started to get a bit of knowledge. So when I met you, I was like, okay, now it's just a case of dialing it in and getting it to a situation where I actually want to get to that, spot, which is the photo shoot, obviously, which I kind of knew where I needed to be, but I wasn't doing it. And I don't know why, and it was just life and all that kind of stuff and having a family and having kids. But I think the coach thing that's what gets you that last bit, I think, for me. And, every person's different, but, for me, it was like, you were the person who said, right, okay, we can do it. You're not going to get to 80% or get you to 100%. Because I was kind of hovering around 70, 80%. And when I was doing the bulk, I was like, oh, how am I going to get the fat off after this now? I've like gone from, I don't know what it was. I was like 82, 83, 82.4, I think. And that's another thing I really like is your spreadsheets, but yeah. So I was like at 82.4 and I was panicking. I was really panicking, but I was thinking, God, I'd done all this hard work since 2019 and I'm suddenly back at a weight that I don't really want to be at. I don't feel comfortable here.
Yeah.
So that's when, you kind of put my mind at ease and we put that plan in place.
Yeah, yeah. And it is tough when you're in that position because you can't see necessarily what you've been building underneath, can you?
Yeah.
When you've got the sort of the added weight and the added body fat and stuff. And I know when we first set out, it was a case of, okay, well, the first X amount of weeks, we're just going to treat it as almost like a bit of a warm-up. Let's have a look at getting your routines going, get into better habits, which, to be fair, when we came in, your habits weren't bad at all because you'd already been in good routines. It was just a case of tweaking them to set us up for what we then wanted to do, which was obviously this overarching photo shoot prep. And then we didn't really, obviously, get going with that until post-Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was sort of summer into Christmas. It was just a bit of a tidy up, get you feeling a bit better, bring your weight down a bit, get you a bit happier to put us in a position where then in the new year we can be like, right, we're really going to kick it on. And how have you found the difference between the sort of pre-Christmas and the post-Christmas? Have you noticed much difference between them, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we obviously coming in summer, I mean, it was like, holidays planned with I told you about, and family stuff going on and, stuff that you think, oh, how the hell am I going to deal with this? And that was, that's always in the back of your mind mentally. And then you obviously, there's a couple of moments on check-ins. It was like, look, and you do it in a really nice way. It's like, this is what we need to do by October. You kind of need to dial it in a little bit, and you thinking that you can go and do this and think it's all right. Actually, it's probably not. And don't get me wrong, you did it in a really friendly way. And I'm like, came away from that check-in and thinking, I need to sort my shit out. I really need to do this. So, and it kind of helped me. I think it was when my wife and my daughter had gone to Istanbul, and I was thinking, yeah, this week's great. I can, do it. But I went out a couple of times, and it didn't help. but yeah, we got into October and I was like really happy where I was. I was like feeling really good and getting really, really good comments and really good compliments, and and then obviously we started eating more into Christmas. And then come January, I was quite nervous, I've got to say, because and it's as your job as a coach is, you're kind of probably looking at me thinking, yeah, it'll be fine. But I'm mentally, you're sort of seeing January 6th, 7th come along and says, oh, I got to get on with this now. And have we got enough time? And I've got a trip coming up to work trip to Dubai, and then I've got another trip to Africa, and I'm like, oh, this is like scary. Am I going to be able to manage this? And that's where the coaching side of the thing comes in, I guess. It's like you kind of put my mind at ease, told me what I needed to do, and I was like, okay, I can do it now. And you kind of breathe a sigh of relief and think you get that peace of mind.
Yeah, yeah. And it's nice because obviously we just end up, we just take it 1 week at a time, don't we? And it's just, unless we've got something like the Dubai trip that we had, or the Nigeria trip, where we're like, okay, well, we need to plan ahead a little bit for these and have a look at where we're staying. It's just taking each week as it comes and breaking it down. And there's certainly, the more and more I've done this over the years with different people through photoshoot preps or show preps or just general fat loss, whatever, there's definitely traits that you can sort of start to spot where you're like, okay, I know that, yes, we've got a lot on. Yes, it's not an easy thing to do, but I think they're going to be okay because they've got X traits and they are organised and they are consistent. And like yourself and like Ryan that's just been in here, when we do then have a plan, you will just crack on and get it done. And don't get me wrong, there's weeks where stuff comes up, isn't there? It gets in the way, and that's life, and you have to work around it. But it's never a case of, you've never had that approach of, okay, well, this was the plan, this came up and got in the way, so I just went, fuck it. I can't do it perfect, so I'm not going to do it at all. It's always been a case of, okay, this is a slight bump, we've worked around it, I've done as best as I could, reassess how we're looking, we go from there. And it's just little things like that over time, they make the difference. And it's always been a case where, and you've said it from your start, like you've wanted to do as well, obviously, as you possibly can with this. And I've always known that you're going to do well out of this process. And we're sitting in a position now where we are looking good. And we've got a nice chunk of time left before the shoot, which is really, really cool. So is there anything that, like, through this first longer dieting phase, we'll say this photo shoot prep, that you've kind of picked, and I think there's something that you've mentioned to me before, which I'll say after if it's not something that you mentioned. Is there anything that you've picked up along this way in this dieting phase that maybe you weren't doing before coming into coaching, that you're like, maybe that's where I was not necessarily going wrong, but maybe this was something I was missing before it, or any things like that?
Yeah, I think, I kind of came into it knowing that I lead a fairly busy life. Not work, yes, but more you have stuff going on. And I am really good with routine and structure. It's probably why I've been good at this with you, is that, as I said, I see the spreadsheet every week and go, right, got to make sure it's filled in, got to track my weight every day, got to do my steps, got to do my training. I don't think I've missed a training session with you, to be honest.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think you have.
And I've not really missed my steps and all the kind of stuff that I know I need to do. But then stuff comes up where, oh, we've got to go and meet this person at the weekend, or we've got this dinner, or we've got that, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, great. So what happens is that you think, how do I track this? And in my head, I'm going, I can't really track it. And I don't really want to say, for example, to the family or friends that, oh, can we not go here? Can we go there? Because I feel bad. You feel guilty because a lot of people don't understand what you're trying to achieve. And that's nothing against them. It's just, they don't really get it. And I don't really want to explain to them. So it's, you do tend to get people saying, well, you're fine. Why are you doing it? You look fine. I'm like, again, but I want to be here, and that's not where I am. So you go into a dinner or a social occasion or a dinner party, and mentally it's tough. And it doesn't matter whether you're, I guess, whether you might be able to answer this, but whether you're a coach or whether you're, know all the sports science and all that kind of stuff. You go into a social occasion and you've been trying to do what you say, for example, just have 1,000 calories that day and then do this when you go out. And someone tells you, oh, yeah, what are you drinking? I'm like, I've got a really nice bottle of wine. I'm like, and you kind of end up.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's really tough. And I think that's where, and the good thing with you is what I've actually done is that I just thought, I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not going to tell you that I've done something when I haven't, because it's just not going to help me, right? So I'll tell you, I said, look, listen, I went out, and then I think you told me once, you're under tracking. What you probably had. I think I went to see I think I went to see an Arsenal match or something. Yeah, it was Arsenal Man U. And I remember saying to you, I said, look, okay, I had this lunch and I had this, and that, and I had this. And he goes, well, actually, that was probably, you're probably knocking on the door of 1,000 calories. I'm going, oh shit, really?
Mm.
And that's where I think that's the hardest bit in my position, or when you did it in your position, where you're thinking, how do I do this? With one, telling people or having to explain to people, and two, avoiding temptation.
Yeah. It is tough, mate. And like, just to circle back to what you said, like, I think it's easier as a coach, having gone through this process not as a coach and now doing it as a coach. It's definitely easier for me now as a coach because I have that fallback of this is for work.
Yeah.
So last year when I was dieting for the shoots and shows and stuff, like, I had a few stag do's during that time and a couple of weddings, and like for the stag do's, one of them was my brother's, so I was very much like, I'm just going to go and enjoy that. I'm not a big drinker anyway, I know you know that anyway, so it's never a case for me to go crazy, but it is easier because when I am in these social situations and I'm not eating or I'm not drinking, I can very much be like, it is for work, because it is for work, but it's like, it's for work, so there's less questions asked. I didn't always have that, and I know from my own experience, it is a lot harder when you're kind of trying to explain to people. You don't want to explain to people because then it just opens up to more questions and more questions, and you kind of just like, look, I know what I'm doing. I'm happy what I'm doing. Just I'm here. I'm present. I'm enjoying myself. Like, that's what matters, surely. It can feel really, really awkward, and it can be difficult. Certainly for the first couple of times you do it is the hardest. And then after a little while, it does get easier because, the friends that you socialise with, the family, they start to almost expect it, and they can be a bit like, okay, we know what the deal is here. It's not going to be forever. And I think it is just having that conversation. It depends on the friend and the family, right? Yeah. Obviously with your family, they're around you all the time. They need to know what's going on. If it's friends that you're seeing all the time, definitely be like, this is why I'm doing it. This is what I'm getting out of it. It's not going to be forever, but this is what I'm going to have to do. 9 times out of 10, everyone's like, all right, cool, sound. But you'll always still get the little sort of elbow digs and the little niggles of, come on, you can have one, you can have one, you can do this. And it is tough. Like, that is one of the harsh realities of doing it is just having to deal with those social situations. Yeah. Which is why some people just remove themselves altogether from them. I don't recommend doing that. I never tell people to do that because I don't think that's any healthier than going and just doing your own thing, because then socially you feel like you're missing out all the time and you start to resent the diet. But it is tough, isn't it? It is really, really hard at times.
Well, I found it easier. Actually, I was talking to you about this a couple of weeks ago. I've actually found it easier telling people what I'm doing, because otherwise they're going, if you just said to them, oh, I'm just trying to keep in shape, and they're going, well, there's nothing wrong, right?
Yeah.
What's the issue?
Yeah.
And I've had people tell me in October last year, I went for my mate's 50th, and they were like, oh, you've lost too much weight. You're looking.
You get that a lot as well.
Exactly. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you think that, but I don't. Yeah. And you tell people, they ask you. I mean, obviously, now that I'm kind of middle-aged as such, you do get a lot of people who are questioning how they're looking in terms of weight, worrying about what they're going to look like when they're older, because your metabolism slows down as you get older, and it's harder. You got more commitments and all that kind of stuff. And they'll ask me, well, how'd you do it? So when they're telling you that you've lost too much weight, or why do you need to do this, it's because maybe they're thinking, well, you're probably, and it sounds disrespectful to say to other people, they're probably saying to themselves, well, you're in really good shape, probably better shape than me, so why do you need to go any further than that? But it's just, I'm kind of one of these all or nothing people. I have to achieve that goal. It's like, even I've been stressing with you this week when I said, oh, I've got to go to New York on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I'm like absolutely bricking it that I'm going to mess something up so close to the shoot, and you put my mind at ease and we'll work out a plan. So yeah, it mentally, I think the one thing about getting to, I can't really comment on when you're already in a bad place and you're coming down to sort of a better place. But when you're getting the place where I'm in a good place, but trying to achieve almost perfection, that is starting to mess with your head.
Yeah, it's something that has to give, and like you say, it's completely context dependent, because in just a normal general diet to lose a bit of weight and feel better, for the most part, you don't have to cut out the socials. Yeah, they have to be moderated to a degree, but you don't have to be like, I cannot eat, I cannot drink at these things. And for a lot of the things that we had leading up to the start of this year for yourself, we were still enjoying them. Yeah. But when you go into the degree that you are now, when you are taking it to the level of a photo shoot, and you're already now very lean, you do have to go to that point, and it isn't going to be forever. And it is tough. It's really tough. And to get that across to people who, like you said, will look at you as you're getting compliments all the time. Now people looking at you being like, fucking hell, you're looking amazing. And you're still like, yeah, but it's not quite where I want to be. It's very difficult for people to wrap their head around. And I always used to get them. I still do when I diet, like, oh, your face is looking like. So when I was dieting last year, I'd go and see, my mum and dad once a week or something like that. And I'd always get from my mum and my grandma especially and stuff like, oh, your face is really, really gaunt now. Like, can you put some weight back on? We don't like you like this. Yeah. And I'm always like, I understand where that's coming from. It's coming from a good place, but just trust that I know what I'm doing. Yeah. It's all fine. It's all planned out. Like, it's not forever.
Well, I remember when you were probably 3 weeks out from your shoot, and I showed my wife your Instagram post, and I was like showing her the pictures and stuff. She goes, oh, he's lost too much weight. He's just too skinny. I remember telling you on WhatsApp, and you said, "Yeah, I get that a lot. It's fine. I kind of expect it." But I'm starting to get that now. It's like, oh, you're looking too skinny, and my mum goes, What? Why are you doing this? It's,
on the flip side, I always take that as when you start getting those compliments, that's when you're around where you need to be. Until you get those compliments, you're like, well, I've obviously still got a bit left to lose. But like I say, it's not forever. But no, I mean, a big thing for me and something we've had to work around a lot, which I wanted to chat about, was the travel. And obviously, like you said, recently been Dubai, Africa. We had a Dubai trip at the back end of last year and an Africa trip as well, didn't we? And I think a lot of the time it's easy to be like, well, I've got this trip coming up. Not for you specifically, because you've always been really good, but it's for other clients and other people. It's like, well, I've got this trip coming up. I can't track what I'm doing. I can't be as routine. So fuck it. I'll just do whatever whilst I'm there, and I'll think about it when I get home. But I don't think it's as difficult as people think it is to at least just keep some form of routine whilst you're there. But I mean, how have you found it?
So yeah, you're right. I've been thinking back on it now. I mean, I've done a lot since I've been coaching with you. I mean, we had Italy in August, and then that was a holiday. And then October was Nigeria, I remember. Then I went racing in November for a weekend. And then obviously Christmas came. Yeah. I had Dubai and Nigeria again. So yeah, I mean, I think the travel side of things. The good thing is that when you have a plan, which you always talk about a lot, and I sort of really try and listen to that as much as I can. When you have that plan where you'll say to me, right, okay, let's try and do this for breakfast, this for lunch, and this for dinner, you mentally get yourself geared up before you go. Yeah. And I'll be honest, there's been times when on all those trips that I've done, I think I may have mentioned to you sometimes when I've said, oh, it wasn't great, and sometimes it's been fine, but sometimes I haven't even told you. But it's hard when you're traveling and you're busy in the day. I'm with my brother because we run our business together on a couple of the times, and you go out for dinner with staff or with customers, and it's actually not that you have to tell them that you're not eating much. You actually want to. I think I actually want to enjoy this meal, right? I want to have the food, or I want to have a couple of drinks or whatever. But there's always little sort of tweaks and sacrifices that you've told me that you can make. Just have a vodka slimline, instead of having a beer or whatever, or then skip dessert or skip the starter. So I think it's really key that as long as I know what I'm doing, and actually, a lot of the time, no one even notices. No. So, for example, when we go on holiday, it's like when I have breakfast, like no one's looking at what you're eating, right? So if you have a bit of fruit and some eggs, that's healthy enough and it works well. And when you're at lunch and you have a salad, that's right. I went to Qatar in October as well. That was with my wife, my son, and my mum, and I was relatively healthy because a lot of these places, the healthy option's always there. So you think, I don't mind it. And then I'd still in the evening have a nice meal, but just I think it sounds an odd thing to say because you feel like it's been coached into you by a coach, obviously, but you don't go into these things thinking I'm going to have 10 drinks and have absolutely stuff my face, because one, your body doesn't like it anymore, and two, as a person over the years, and short term and long term, you just think that it's not really what you want to do. It's like you say you don't drink much, right? It's just something that you just don't do. And you think, now that I've become a person where I like to eat healthily, yet enjoy my food, you can actually find that balance and do both.
Yeah, 100%. And like, there's obviously times and places like with the Italy trip where we're like, that's a holiday, go and enjoy yourself. You don't need a plan for that. But when it's almost like when it's work trips, for example, it's really easy tweaks, like you said. It's just little things like, right, well, let's push back your breakfast. Let's just go for the eggs and a bit of fruit. Let's go for the salad for your lunch. Not so that we're trying to be like super, super restrictive, but it's so that then we know that the evening meal is probably going to be the one where you are with clients or with your brother or with your family, and you want to relax a bit more with that. So it's like, right, well, let's be a little bit stricter through the day so that you can enjoy yourself in the evening a bit more. And then not even from as much the calorie point of view, but it's from that social point of view of it doesn't stand out as much.
Yeah.
If you're able to relax in the evening, people don't notice as much, and you don't get the same questions, and then you don't feel like you're doing your diet. You know, it's not obvious that you're dieting, or you don't feel like you're excluded from everybody else because you're not getting the same kind of questions. Whereas if it's like we try and spread that across the day evenly, but in the evening you're going to have to pull back and only get this and only get that, then it's more obvious, and then you get the questions, then you do feel a bit more isolated. So it definitely does make a difference, and it's not that hard. And then obviously if you can get access to like a decent hotel gym or something just to tick over whilst you're there, we always sort of say like, if we can come back in the same position that we went in, taking into account water retention from the flights and the travel and everything, we're in a pretty good spot.
Well, that's the other thing, actually. I think as a client, I think you, not obviously having maybe the coaching background, the sports science background and all that kind of stuff, is that you do really deal, and that's tough because you go in there and you always tell me, oh, well, you know, you got a flight, you got water retention, you're not eating the same food you normally do, there's more salt, there's more oil, blah, blah, blah. You have that all in your head. You come back on the first day and you step on the scales, you think, shit, what's going on here? This is ridiculous. I didn't even do that badly. But within 3 days, it's dropped down again. So you every time you know that it's going to be fine, you still second guess it. Yeah. You still second guess it.
I don't think you ever lose that, because even now myself, I will still have times when I'm dieting and I've done something similar, like I come back from a stag do and it's gone up by 2 kilos. You always have that immediate fuck. But then it's just having, I think it's just over time building that understanding of and confidence of knowing, okay, at least I know it is going to come straight back off. I know why it's gone up. I don't think you ever get rid of that initial shock or that initial frustration that it's gone up. Then it's gone up. I think just building that confidence over time that you know it's going to come straight back down stops then the other reaction that people might have of just being, well, it's gone up, so who cares? It's all gone to pot. I've ruined it.
Exactly.
Let's just do whatever. But yeah, I don't think you ever actually fully get over that. It's just you learn to deal with it better, and it has less of an impact. And then, like you said, within 2 or 3 days, you'll message me and you'll be like, "Yep, weight's back down to such and such," and you're like, "Cool, we thought that was going to be the case." So yeah, it's just a time thing and an experience thing, isn't it? But you know, 4 weeks out from the shoot, first photo shoot. Yeah, how are we feeling?
Probably now it's starting to hit me a little bit harder mentally. I'm feeling a little bit. I mean, nervous is, you know. You've seen, obviously I look at all yours and Jake's and other people's Instagram posts of people who do shoots, and you're thinking, I really need to look like that. And you know, there's times it's just, you just mentally beat yourself up as you're getting so close. And at the same time, you're having to obviously restrict. And I get that. That bit's fine. But you do start to think, right, okay, it's getting closer. And I was telling a few people this week, actually, I was going, you know, now it's starting to get serious, and I'm starting to now realize that this is now not where we were last year, where it's just coaching client. There's actually a lot more specific, serious goal here, which is like the photo shoot. So you are obviously pushing to that limit and that boundary. So, and I've kind of blocked off the diary quite well, and everyone knows, as in the people that matter. And I've been really chuffed about that, actually. They've, you know, and I think you kind of helped me with that and how to explain it to people. And I've had that support level there. I mean, interesting, last week it was my father-in-law's birthday. And the wife goes to me, we're going out for dinner. Is that all right? And she goes, oh, if you don't want to come, don't come. And I said, no, I'll come. But do you mind if I eat at home first? And I'll just come and I'll have a couple of Diet Cokes and we'll sit and be just good. You know, obviously I'll be there. And she was cool with it. Yeah. And actually, it was fine. Yeah, you know, there wasn't any particular issues. You know, my daughter's 20, my son's 18, so they're kind of like having a laugh about it. But you know, they're cool with it as well. So after obviously New York's done, there's a couple of things going on in the diary that I'll manage based on what you said and say, right, okay, guys, I'm either going to eat before, eat after, or eat separately.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to be there. It's all going to be good. And I'm doing it. And April 28th it's not long now.
It's not. And as soon as you get into that month of April, for me, I know from when I've done it, as soon as I get into the month that the event's on, that's when the mindset switches of, oh, it's close now. Like it's really, really close. There's it's the next thing coming up almost.
But I'm also actually, it's weird. I was thinking about this the other day. I'm really up for it at the moment. So, I mean, in the sense that I don't find the training and the cardio a problem. So I remember asking you, what's going to change? And you go, well, we're going to probably up your cardio. So we're at 1500 this week. I've done 1240 as of today.
Yeah.
So I've only got 260 left tomorrow. And I might even, depending on the drive back, I might even box off a bit today.
Yeah.
If I feel good enough at 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon. But the thing is, I feel motivated to do that. I'm not sitting there going, oh, this is going to be a pain in the arse. I'm actually thinking, yeah, I'm fine. Tomorrow I'll because New York's coming up next week. I said, right, I'm going to train. I told I said, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I need to train. Yeah, we'll train. I'll get as much done so that I know I'll get a lot of steps in when I'm there. So that's fine. I'll walk around the city. So I'm actually really sort of motivated for that. I'm not feeling tired or exhausted that I don't want to train and I don't want to do the cardio. That might change in a couple of weeks. Depends what you put me on. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I know there's not long to go. And every week that I box off, and this week I sent you the photo when I was in the gym, and I'm like, now I'm seeing the differences. Yeah. Like, you're seeing the things that you want to see. You're seeing the abs like really noticeable. The face is starting to slim down, and everything's kind of getting loose everywhere, and you're thinking that's kind of what's supposed to happen, right? Yeah. So I think that really gives you that little push as well.
Yeah, it really starts. It helps it all sink in a little bit, doesn't it? That like we're getting close now. It's not far off. And it's funny. We just been chatting with Ryan about this because he's done 2 shoots now and he's got his 3rd one coming up this year, and it's been over the space of like 3.5 years. And even for his first photo shoot, like he'll tell you himself, he said it on the episode, like he was still bricking it up till the day, up until taking that first picture. And it's not until, and this happens for pretty much everybody, until you see that first picture of yourself on the day, until like the photographer turns the camera around and shows you that picture, and you see actually how you look, and you go like, I actually look all right. Yeah. Like you're actually almost like you can't believe that it's you in the camera. When you get that, then it switches, and then you kind of like, okay, I feel all right now. Like I can do the rest of this. I'm not as nervous, and that's when it all seems to go away. But up until that point, it just comes on in waves a little bit.
Yeah.
But in terms of a position to be, we're in a great position for it. We're exactly where we want to be. In terms of like coaching as a whole since we started, I hope there's one. There might not be one. Is there anything that you would say is like a highlight of the coaching process so far, or something that just within that coaching process that you've really enjoyed or you've picked out or anything like that?
Honestly,
I know you like the spreadsheets.
I do like the spreadsheets. I like that's actually something that I think the problem is when you like using app and stuff, it's just a bit fiddly. Yeah. But when you've got your spreadsheet to just check, I mean that, for example, being able to see where you were, that is a huge motivation. Yeah. When I look back at where I was in July last year, and you see that weight chart come down, and that's sometimes you look at it and you think that's really great. Yeah. So, I mean, the highlight. I mean, to be honest, I don't have anything negative to say. That's the thing. I mean, I can't think of much since I've been, coaching with you. It's probably because I think it comes, I've talked about stuff. I've thanked you many times about where I've got to. And you've always said to me, well, it's also your hard work. But it's a two-way thing. And you give me all the information and the tools, and I've just used that to make sure it happens. So in that respect, maybe other people don't, I mean, I'm not saying they do, or they don't. Maybe some people don't like the way certain people do things, but I haven't got anything that doesn't suit me. So I don't go, I actually really like the whole check-in video thing as well. So I think that's really cool because I think, I get to just, and I remember telling you at the beginning, I said, oh my God, this is going to be a bit weird, me doing a selfie video of myself and sending it to you. It's like a bit weird. But, I really enjoy it now. And I look forward to it. Every Sunday or Monday, depending on when I do it, because I have to send it to you on a Monday, and then you give me feedback on a Tuesday. I really look forward to telling you how the week's gone and just kind of, sort of telling you what's going on. And then, on Tuesday, I always expect, well, what's he going to say to me this week? And then it's like 10-minute video. I'm going, oh, this is good. I've got to sit there and watch it. It's going to be really good fun. So, I think highlight-wise, I I just no. But to me, everything's a highlight, mate. Honestly, I mean, I'm not saying that just to big you up as such.
I'll pay you after.
Yeah, exactly. No, but genuinely, I just think to myself, it's just now something I do. It's in my head, and I'm thinking, right, okay, this is what I've got to do this week. Yeah, this is when my check-in is. This is when I've got to train. And the other, I mean, yeah, I've really enjoyed the workouts. I've got to say, I think you're really good at that feedback form, and knowing what. Obviously, I've got a home gym, so knowing the equipment I've got. At times, it's you've tailored it so that some of the stuff I mean, this new block that you've given me, I'm really looking forward to it. I've got a couple of new exercises. Stuff that you obviously said that I wanted to do, like more cable related, for example. And I did one last night, and I again loved that bicep tricep is horrible, but I mean it was great as well. So yeah, that kind of stuff, along with everything else you tell me, it just everything fits in place.
Yeah,
I don't go into a week or a month thinking that I'm a bit unsure, and if I am, you'll obviously tell me and make it clear. And food-wise, it's just rinse and repeat, isn't it? I mean,
it is for the most part, especially with what we're doing at the minute. It is pretty much rinse and repeat, and we just adjust portion sizes every now and again, don't we? If we need to, and that's it. But no, I mean, we talk about the fact we use spreadsheets all the time because I'm a big fan of them, and I always have been. It's the only thing in sort of my online coaching career that I've used because I prefer them to apps, like you said. And I was actually having this conversation because they force you to think about things, don't they? When you can see all that information in front of you, it forces you, even without you intending to, you start to notice patterns and you'll see change. And I was having this conversation, someone messaged me the other day and was sort of saying, I'm wanting to lose a bit of weight. I'm looking at buying some scales. Should I get some normal scales and then put that information into a spreadsheet so I can manually track it myself? They're like, I've seen a set of scales where it's basically, you get the scales, it connects to an app and it automatically just puts the weight into the app and the app tracks it, so I don't have to think about it. And they were like, that sounds much easier. What do you think I should do? And I was kind of like, well, if you're not wanting to think about it, you're not going to get very far. Like if you're wanting to drop a bit of weight or change some habits,
you need to think about it.
You're going to need to think about it. So I was like, I would always keep it simple and go for a spreadsheet, because it's going to force you to manually look at it, put it into a sheet, see how much it's changed, if it's changed, why it might have changed or why it might not have changed. I was like, if it's just automated in an app, I was like, I can guarantee you give it a week, you're not going to check it.
Yeah.
I was like, you're just not going to be bothered. Like you need to be thinking about these things. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I always quite like them. And, spreadsheets, they're not the sexiest thing to look at I quite like them, but they're not as like user friendly as an app. They don't look as pretty, but I think you get a lot more back for them in terms of, as long as I know that you're happy with, you've got the plan for the week, you've not got any questions, there's nothing confusing, and we can put that in the format, like that's cool. That's all we need, isn't it?
So first thing I do when I get to the office in the morning is I open my Google Chrome and I have a load of tabs at the top, work, etc., etc. And then one of them is MyFitnessPal and the other one's Google Sheets.
Yeah.
I don't really look at the training ones. I know that that's going to be the evening when I train.
Yeah.
So, but the one which tells me I've got to put my steps in from the day before, put my weight in.
Yeah.
I've done it in the morning, and then put my calories in from MyFitnessPal, and it all sort of like links in.
Yeah.
That is just me. I'm that kind of numbers driven person.
Yeah.
So that works. That's the other thing I think when you talked about highlight. I mean, it just, that's the click where you think, right, okay, he understands this, but you do it. So I think, well, I like that, so that works.
Yeah. It's interesting as well that you mentioned around the check-in videos, because I found them to be one of the best things I've done from a coaching point of view in terms of how I've changed over time, because it used to be just either like a WhatsApp check-in.
Yeah.
It still had the spreadsheets. There was just no video. So it was kind of just message me how you're feeling, how the week's been going. And I think that when it's in written format, and I would be the same, it's so much easier to just be like, yeah, everything's fine.
Yeah.
No worries, no real questions, can't bother. But when it's a video, you find that, and I'm sure you'll have found this yourself, you'll just start chatting about stuff that wasn't even necessarily in your head when you started recording, but that's the stuff that's almost important. And as well as a coach, like I can see how you're actually, so like, I can see how you're talking. I can see, are you looking tired? Have you got this energy? Are you happy? Are you looking a bit down? And you can pick up on these little things. And I think in terms of like building a good relationship from a coaching point of view, I think the videos have been the best thing. But it is weird filming yourself to begin with, isn't it?
But the other interesting thing is actually when you take out the actual coaching side of things, when with you specifically, again bigging you up, but when I send check-in video, I'll just talk about something that I've done that week that is like a social thing, like I did a track day, or I went out here, or I went to the footy and all this kind of stuff. And you must be sitting there writing notes or something, right? Because
I do.
You know, and you'll talk about that. I'm going, oh, he remembered that I did that. That's pretty cool. Or, you know, you'll talk about, you know, oh, I've been there, or I did this, or I did that. And it's like, kind of like, it's that relationship thing that you're actually not just saying, right, this is your calories, this is your training, get on with it. Yeah, because anyone can do that, right?
Anyone can do that.
Yeah. So it's like the fact that you when you make it more personal, and I've talked to you about how, you know, I'd love to coach one day, but, you know, when you make it more personal, I think it's easier then for that person to buy into what he or she is trying to do, or what you're trying to tell them to do. Yeah. Because if you just have a bit of a cold relationship, and this is why you talk about videos, you know, in the past I've had a call every 2 weeks, right? And when you're on the phone with someone, because you're actually on the phone call with them then, I think you're inclined not to sometimes hide the truth a little bit, or not really get to what you want to say. Because when you do the check-in video, no one's around. Yeah. You don't do it in front of people. I don't do it in front of people. And I'm like, you know, I'm either in the office, or I've done it a couple of times in the car, or I'm at home sitting on the bed. And I can just talk about what I want to talk about, but I don't feel any pressure from anyone. But when you're on a phone call or on a Zoom call or whatever it is, and the other person's live, I don't think you're going to be as upfront, as honest as you would be.
No, and I think it always feels a bit more formal. And I know I tried it once or twice like that. I actually had a coach for myself who would do a call every week.
Yeah.
And I found after like 4 or 5 weeks, I was kind of like, I don't need the call. I was like, because I know what I'm doing. It's pretty simple at the minute. And I was like, you know, I think they were like 30 minutes a call at a time. And I was kind of like, we don't talk about anything other than fitness and nutrition. Yeah. And we don't need 30 minutes to talk about that. Yeah. So I was kind of like, I don't think they're always good to have as an option. So if we ever need to, we always jump on a call if we need to, and it's always an option. But as a standard, it's just, like you said, it feels more formal, and you don't build as better relationship than if you're feeling a bit more relaxed, and you can just chat away about whatever you want.
Well, and you can't see, I mean, you know, you'll bring my spreadsheet up, for example, my training plan, going, you know, and you'll sort of like show me on that video, which is also a really cool thing, right? Because when you're on a call, you can't do that. So that whole thing of being able to show you, even with the new training plans when you do them, it's like, look, this is what you want to do, and this is, I've dialed it out here, I put it here. That's really useful as well.
Yeah. That's I like working that way. So, are there any sort of, before we sort of wrap up with the final couple of questions, are there any like key takeaways that you feel like you've gained from coaching so far? Any sort of, you know, anything that you might have picked up or learned, or things that you might have been doing wrong without realizing beforehand?
I think it's just, I don't think I could do it without a coach. I think I've realised that, because it's very easy for a lot of people, especially, I mean, maybe you guys as well, because you are coaches, but I think you need someone to kind of just put the little details in place. Yeah. I don't think I could have done it otherwise. So that's been the key takeaway for me, is that the structure, I'm one of these people who is just structuring routine. Yeah. That's just me. Yeah. And I've always kind of say to people, because you get people asking you, how'd you do it? And, you know, how are you so disciplined? I said, I'm not really disciplined. I said, I just like routine and structure in my life. You know, every single person, most people in their lives, they get up, they know what time they have to get up, they set an alarm, and they go to work, and they have to be here at this point. And I'm going, well, for me, training is exactly the same. All I'm doing is, instead of your employer telling you that I want you at work at 9 o'clock and you can leave at 5 o'clock and you have 2 breaks in a day, I've got you telling me, well, on the training side of things, well, this is your plan. Here's what you need to do. Yeah. Now, obviously, up to me whether I want to do it or not. And I'm sure you've had clients in the past who sometimes just don't do stuff, and they're not clients anymore, or they just want to move on and do something else. That's fine. But when it's laid out in front of you, that's been my highlight. That it's there for me, and there's nothing missing information-wise. And with that information, I'm hopefully an intelligent enough guy to go and say, right, go and do it.
Yeah. And I find as well, like, when you get into that routine, especially with where you're at the minute with the diet and how everything, it does need to be routine, because we are going to that degree. But that sort of productivity that you get and that routine that you're following, it does spill over into other things. Like, it does spill. I've certainly found with my own work, like, when I'm dieting for something, I feel more productive with work. I feel 100%. The energy from it spills over into everything else. Don't you feel so organised with everything?
It's massive. I think I was going to actually bring that up, and I think that has helped me with so many other things. I mean, I was probably like that already, but I'm saying this has just helped me, because you just go into other things and go, right, if I structure it this way, and you kind of help me with that, I can go and do the same thing with everything else. Yeah. It has a massive carryover. So if there was someone sort of
umming and ahhing about maybe not even doing a shoot, but just sort of taking it a bit more seriously, trying to get into better shape, what would be sort of your top tip for them to just get started on that process? What would you say?
I mean, the most important thing, you've got to speak to someone, because none of us know in reality, unless you've got all the degrees and all that kind of stuff, you don't know what to do. So just reach out and have a chat, because there must be so many people who, as you said, it's not about photo shoots. It's about who want to it's not even about losing weight necessarily. It's about being fit and healthy.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine it. I'm not knocking PTs, but you see a PT once a week or twice a week in a gym, but they're not going to help you with everything else because they don't have the time, right? But when you've got an online coach, I think, and I've convinced my wife to use one as well. And yeah, I mean, I can't really say any more than that. If that's what you want to do and become healthier and more aware of how to lead that lifestyle and still have fun, and still have a social life, and still enjoy things, then that I can't say anything against it.
Yeah, and I think even if you're in a position where like you are as well, like you've got a really good idea of what you need to be doing, like you've got a really good idea with nutrition, with training. I think a lot of people sort of go back and be like, well, why do I need to pay someone for that? Like I know what I'm doing, and it's kind of like you're completely disregarding how much of an impact being held accountable to it can be. Because when you're not held accountable to it, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if there's nothing to force you to put it into action and keep putting it into action, you're never quite going to get to where you potentially want to get to. And just knowing that you're paying someone, but you've also got someone who's going to be checking in with you, who's making sure, have you done it? From my own experience like that, just makes the world a difference.
I think people talk about like the expense of it, but it's really cheap when you consider what you're getting.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, in reality, what you can spend money on, and what you're getting out of this is an end result, as opposed to, I'm not saying spending it on beers or alcohol or whatever, meals out. I'm just saying that, when you factor in people have to spend money to live life.
Yeah.
I can't. And again, it's not about me forcing my opinion on anyone. It's if you spend it, you will see the value in it.
Yeah.
And that's the really, really key thing for me. I sat on the fence for years. I'm not paying someone X amount of money. I mean, there must be, just go on Google and there's fitness plans on there. Go to bodybuilding forums and, all this kind of stuff. But no one knows what your body's like. And you don't know. I mean, I personally didn't know. I'd be just following some guy. I mean, I'll do the steak and eggs diet. Perfect. That would work really well. And I'm thinking, I'm putting on weight again. And that is where a coach comes in and goes, right, actually, this is your body weight, this is your this is your that, and let's try this. And actually helps you dial that in, as opposed to, I'm just going to wing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that's it. And it's just having that open loop of communication where it is like, okay, let's try this for a bit. Let's see how you find it. Let's see how your body responds. And then we'll adjust accordingly. If it's working, cool. If it doesn't, we can tweak things. And if it doesn't suit you, we can tweak things again. And that is essentially, that's what coaching should be. It shouldn't just be, like you said, that Google a meal plan, Google a fat loss plan. Here's your plan, crack on and stick with it. Come back to me if you've lost any weight kind of thing. Yeah. It needs to be a constant back and forth, doesn't it? And just sort of towards finishing up, what would you say to someone who was sat on the fence about coaching? And you kind of touched on it there, to be fair. But if someone was sort of sat on the fence and they were saying, I don't really know if I want to be paying someone to help me with this, but is it going to help? I've not had an online coach, or maybe I have and I've had a bad experience. Like, what would you say to those people?
Call you? No, I think if you're sitting on the fence and you need to sort of like, you've got to have that chat in the first place. That's what you're going to do. You're going to reach out.
And like we said at the start, that's what works really well for us, is we'd already been talking back and forth. Yeah. Just getting to know each other and about general training, relating over struggles and things like that before coaching was ever even a conversation.
You never pressured me into saying, oh, stop coaching with whoever you're coaching and come to me. You never did that. But as I said, I think you find out very easily with social media nowadays. I mean, you find out very easily whether you might get on with someone or not get on with someone, right? And I follow loads of other coaches, and I'm going, I'm not sure. I'm the perfectly nice guy, is probably really, really cool, but just not my cup of tea. So I think do that first, and then in terms of the expense side of things, I don't think you can look at that. What you get is a tailored daily plan, with all your data, and no PT in the world is able to offer you that on a daily basis, right? Because you go and see a PT and they'll say, right, okay, well, what do you eat today? But they're going to do that for that day, not every day.
Yeah.
Right. And they're busy. They're on the gym floor every day, right? They've got other clients. But with the online stuff, they've got everything in front of them for you. So there's nothing that they can't help you with. And if you get the right coach, what they're going to do is they're going to tell you, don't stress. Yeah. This is not a 2 week or a 3 week or 4 week thing. Let's put things in place for you to kind of like slowly over time. You know, some people want to do it straight in, like me. I mean, I'm like kind of like just let's do this, yeah. But other people might take 6 months and they might lose the weight slower, or they might get in shape slower, or they might understand things slower. But it's still way better than just sitting there at home beating yourself up about the fact that you've messed up at the weekend and had 3 pizzas, you know. When they didn't really want to do that, they just kind of didn't have the support to deal with it.
Yeah. I think that's a big part of it, is like sometimes just having someone there to be like, look, don't dwell on the weekend. Yeah. It's not that big of a deal as long as we get back on track this week and we try and do better next weekend. And that's it. And I've got a couple of clients at the minute who are doing the group photo shoot in April in a couple of weeks. And they've had it multiple times where they've been like, oh, I really lost it over the weekend. I was out of routine. You know, I had an off-plan meal. I feel like I've fucked up. And I'm just like, look, you're fine. Yeah. Like, it's one day. It's not a big problem. Just crack on, get back to normal. And a few days later, they'll message saying, you know, I'm feeling a little better. Thanks. Like my weights, I've hit a new low. Everything's fine. Like, I'm feeling good again. And it's like, cool. But sometimes that is all you need, is just that bit of support, isn't it? Just to be like, it's okay.
I think that's the key. When you see people sitting on a fence, I have loads of people come saying, oh, I don't want to track my food. And I'm like, I'm not asking you to track your food. Yeah. I'm saying if you speak to someone, like you telling me about my cousin, right? And it's like, you know, she doesn't track her food.
No,
but you help her to still do what she needs to do.
Yeah.
So I have people come and say, oh, I don't want to track. I don't want to do what you do. You don't have to do what I do, but you will still be in a better place.
Yeah. It's completely relative to where your start point is.
Exactly.
And how far you wanted to take it. And like you said, with your cousin, we just do simple food swaps for her, make moderate choices. We've got a little bit of a better routine. She's absolutely flying, and it works for her, and it's great. Yeah. And you don't need to do any more than that. Like, it's just relative to where you're at and where you want to go. And speaking of, that's it. 4 weeks to go.
Yeah, until April 28th.
Until the shoot. And we've said it'd be quite nice to get you back on in a couple of months, wouldn't it? After you've done the shoot, and we can talk about your experience and sort of how it went and what you're thinking of it. Like, and one thing sort of wanted to ask is, like, you know, what is next after the shoot? How are you feeling for after the shoot? A big part of it's, obviously we've spoken about like the group photo shoot in summer, if that's going to line up, but just with that aside, getting back to normal is a big part of it. After the shoot.
I thought about this on the way up. Actually, I was thinking, what is getting back to normal, right? Yeah. I don't think I'm ever going to be someone who doesn't. If I'm not doing 10 to 12,000 steps a day, regardless of you or not, it would bother me. That's just, maybe it's ingrained in me now. If I'm not eating healthily now, it would be an issue. Yes, I'm gonna enjoy turning 50. I've got a few social occasions, like a few meals lined up, celebrations, and I'm going to enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. But in the main, I was actually going to say to you that even after the week after April 28th, I haven't got much on. So if I haven't got much on, I'm still going to track.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoy it. I'm still going to do my steps. I'm still going to do my training. As to what we do in terms of how I plan physique changes and next batch of training, that we'll have a chat about. And, you know, we'll do that obviously later. But I don't really know. I think I want to get this photo shoot ticked off, know that I've done it, and then, you know, I've seen stuff like, you know, you've had people go into competition stuff thinking, oh, that'd be quite nice, but then I don't know. I don't know. I think the main thing is that fitness has become a key part of my life.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to need someone, you know, hopefully it'll be you who will guide me through that process, how many years it takes, because I like the fact that people look at me and go, oh, you're turning 50. You don't look like you're turning 50. And you know, long term, I start thinking about things like, I'm going to get old now. My kids are like 20 and 18, right? I feel like a bit old. And I want to be healthy. I don't want to be 70 and maybe have health issues that I wouldn't have if I stayed in the shape that I'm in now. That's a huge thing long term that we didn't talk about. But I think the health benefits of staying fit and being a good weight and looking good will probably be when I'm older. It might mean I'll have a better life and be able to do more when I'm older, I think.
Yeah. And like I said, the better you can keep those foundations in place now, the easier it's going to be as you're getting older. Because for the most part, as you're getting older, going completely off topic, like the majority of problems come in from muscle degradation, from just losing muscle tissue as you're getting older. It's harder to build, you lose it quicker, getting weaker, being a bit more frail, and just losing a lot of weight.
Yeah.
If you can have come in from a good point where you are consistently eating a good amount of food, you've got a decent amount of muscle, and you know how to sustain that as you're getting older, and obviously that's way down in the line, it is just going to set you up for, hopefully, a much easier transition into old age that we would all want to try and get to.
And that's the thing, it's not just about the aesthetics or the vanity of a photo shoot, because it is, you know, I'll be honest, I'm not going to do a photo shoot, it's not about aesthetics, it is about how I look. But more than that, it's about I am just a healthy person.
Yeah, and it's having that, I think as well, with especially like a photo shoot, especially for something like your 50th, it's about having that as like obviously like a timestamp forever where you can look back and be like, when I hit 50, like this was the result of my work, this is how I was looking, like, which not many people can do at all. And it's something you can always look back and be proud of. It's something your kids can always look up to and be proud of as well. Like it is something that you can just keep with you forever, isn't it?
Yeah, I hope so.
No, I'm looking forward to it, mate. I'm really looking forward to it. But look, we'll wrap up there. I think we're a bit short on time. So, mate, thank you so much for making.
No, thank you for having me on.
It's been a pleasure, dude. It's been a pleasure. And like I said, hopefully we'll get you on again in the
next look forward to it.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.